Hey everyone, good evening.
Good evening, Alfred.
Good evening, good evening.
Evening, everyone.
Go ahead and start. Just give me a minute. Cool. So I believe my screen is visible to everyone. Okay. So in the last session, we talked about like how the internet works. We talk about how, yeah, we talk about like what are the major components, as in whenever you go ahead and ask for something, ask for a URL or ask for any information from your browser or your client. The first thing that any kind of internet network does is to find the IP behind that address that you have given, which is google.com, linkedin.com, or anything, which is done by a DNS server. And then they are able to find the IP. And with that IP, they are able to locate that, yes, this server has the information that you are looking for. And then they are going to return that response for you. So they are going to listen to the request, they are going to create a response, and then they are going to send it to you in the form of a web page or any kind of request that is there in the case. Okay. So today, we are going to discuss two things. We are going to discuss the three-tier architecture, and we are going to talk about popular tech stacks. Okay, the three-tier architecture is like a very common architecture where most of the applications that you will see, almost all of the applications that you are going to see, they can be broken down into the three-tier architecture, like how they are created, what are the various parts to it. These are the fundamental building blocks, which will help you understand like if some kind of error is occurring, why is it, if you can optimize, what is the place from where you can optimize. So this will help you understand about technology and from a very first principles angle. Second is popular tech stack. So we are going to talk about very popular technologies today, which is React, Node, Java, Bootstrap, and all, so that you understand that yes, what are the basic concept behind the same. We are not going to go into deep. We are just going to get an overview, which should be important for you as a product manager and just to add to your knowledge base out there. Cool. So we'll start with the three-tier architecture. Yes, just before that, yeah. So before that, can you guys like quickly tell me, go ahead in the chat if I can go ahead with the session and like the mic, the audio and presentation is clear to you. Just tell me, go ahead in the chat if everything is clear to you. Cool. Yes. So I'll tell you, like most of the things that you see, like most of the websites, the app that you see on the internet, okay, they are actually working on, you can break them down into three components. Okay. And when you break them down into three components, you are going to see that there are three major components. Okay. The first component is the presentation layer, where the information is shown. This is the UX part or the UI part, where we as a user can interact with your product. That is the presentation layer. If I talk about LinkedIn, the comments that you see, the buttons that you see, the blue color that you see, the images that you see, the picture profile that you see, the profile picture that you see, the cover that you see, all of this is part of a UI or the presentation layer. So presentation, as given from the name, presentation is what the end user can see. What are you presenting? That is the presentation layer. Okay, it takes the input from the user and it also gives the output to the user, shows the output to the user. That is the presentation layer. The second layer is application layer. This is the real layer, like where most of the coders, developers work, where we make sure that we are able to go ahead and put some business logic behind our content. So for example, whenever you go ahead, like or comment something on LinkedIn, you have gone ahead and pressed a button, you have gone ahead and written something and post a button known as make a comment. Okay. After that, whatever happens, whatever logic is running, whatever is happening over there, whatever the count is increasing, anything that is happening in the backend, that is a responsibility of the application layer. Okay, this is like the main logic that is there. And this is mostly hidden from the end users out there. The third part is the database layer. In order to carry out its logic, the application layer might need the help of the data layer. Okay, so it will take the help of the data layer, do some operations, and then in the end, it is going to make sure that yes, this is what they were looking to do. This is what I have done, and this is the output, and send the output again to the presentation layer to show. Okay, so presentation layer is what you see. Application layer is how it works. And then the database layer helps the system if it needs any kind of data out there. For example, if I go ahead and accept a request on LinkedIn, Okay, then if I click when I'm seeing that button, where I'm seeing that buttons where all the requests are, where I'm seeing that page where all the requests are there, if I click on confirm button or accept button, that is a part of UI. What happens after that in the database? What happens after that at the application is the part of the other two layers. The application layer is going to go ahead and take this logic and put something into the database and say that yes, this person has become the friend, and then it will show the output to the person. So 3 layers. You can take any system and you can break it down into 3 parts: the presentation layer, the application layer, and the database layer. And now what are like some of the basic functionalities of these layers? Okay, so in the presentation, mostly it is responsible for getting the user input, and it is also responsible for presenting the user input. Okay, so it gets the user input and it also presents the user input, as in the button clicks, okay, or maybe in the form of any kind of hover over anything, or if you are going ahead and clicking any kind of link or doing any kind of action on the website, that input is taken to this particular, that input is taken by the presentation layer. Similarly, present the output or UI, which is whenever you go ahead and something is happening, okay, how would you as a user know if something has happened? For example, if you go ahead and comment something on LinkedIn, how would you know if that comment is going to appear? So presentation layer will also make sure that you are getting that output, because you can only interact with the presentation layer. The second is understand the user input. The application layer will make sure that they are able to it is able to understand the user input. This is the main logic, the business logic out there. It will process the data and it will create the output and send it to the presentation layer so that it can show it. And then in order to go ahead and do its work, application layer will most of the time needs a database layer. Okay, it will store data. It will make sure whenever the application layer is looking for data, it should have the data available. Okay, and if you know, like, if you know how these, like, if you know this particular concept that yes, this is the presentation layer, this is the application layer, this is the database layer, what will happen is that you'll be able to figure out some of the problems. Okay, so for example, if something not working in the UI, okay, you know that the color of the button is not correct, you know that the size of the button is not correct, or when you are pressing the button, it is not exactly getting pressed. Okay, then you know that yes, this is the problem that is coming from the front end team or the presentation layer team. Okay, so I'll also tell you how you can break this down into various kind of teams so that you know as a product manager, if something is not working, whom you should go ahead and reach out to. After this, we have one more example. Okay, so here we are going to consider how LinkedIn reactions work. Okay, LinkedIn reaction has and how you go ahead and break down, understand this concept with the help of presentation layer, with the help of how do you understand the 3-tier architecture with the help of an example we take from LinkedIn. Okay, so I hope everyone might have seen this particular page with this particular section on LinkedIn, where behind any post there is a comment section. Okay, so the presentation layer is responsible for showing to the user that this is what you are seeing. So the presentation layer will show all of this data. It will show these images, it will show all of these buttons, it will also show whatever data is available. Okay, so whatever you see is the responsibility of presentation layer. Also, once that is happening, the presentation layer is also responsible for taking any input from the user. That when you click this button, 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 all of this would be captured by the presentation layer. Okay, so when you go ahead and press this button, what will happen is that the data will go to the logic layer. So sending the data to the logic layer is also the responsibility of the presentation layer. So whenever you have gone ahead, for example, you are looking at a status update from LinkedIn and you have clicked on the like button, what will happen after that? So presentation layers work is done. They have shown you what the comments are, they have shown you the post, they have shown you what is the number of likes that are already there. Okay, and now you have gone ahead and made an interaction. You have clicked on one like button. So now what will happen? After this, the control will go to the logic layer. The logic layer, it will first check if the user has already given reaction from data layer. Okay, so first of all, before doing anything, before showing any input, before showing any output to the user, whether you have liked it or not, it is first going to check whether this person has already given a like or not. You understand, if the person has already liked it, it is going to get unliked, and if they have not liked it, it is going to become liked. Okay, so first of all, it is going to check from the logic layer. Okay. And now the logic layer also doesn't know. Logic layer is just logic. So it has to go to the data layer. And in the data layer, it would have been mentioned that the data layer would be maintaining a record of everything, that this is a particular user and they have, in this particular post, they have given a reaction, yes or no, or what kind of reaction they have given. Okay, so all of this information would be present with the data layer, also known as backend, also known as the database part of the backend. Okay, this layer here, it is logic, but we can also call it as an application layer. Okay, and once that happens, all of this data is then once it has happened, it has understood whether you have liked it or not, then they will go ahead and get the type of the reaction. Okay, so first they have just checked if you have gone ahead and put a reaction already or not. And if you have gone ahead and put a reaction, if you have not put a reaction, then what will happen is that it will check what is the type of the reaction. So the presentation layer will have to send not only if you have gone ahead and pressed that button. Once you click on this button, 5 emotions are going to appear, right? So data presentation layer also has to capture, the presentation layer also has to capture what was the button that they have clicked. They have clicked on angry, haha, or delusional, or something like that. Okay, or insights button, or whatever the reactions are on LinkedIn. So it will capture that data as well. After that, it will go ahead and count the current reactions. It will again go ahead and make sure that it is counting all of the reactions that are there on this particular post. Okay, and after that happens, it is going to go ahead and send the new count, what is the image of the user from the database, and other information to the presentation layer so that they can showcase that, yes, I have clicked, now the update has been done. Okay, so presentation layer, all the interactions front end, it is going to capture. After that, it is going to go ahead, all the logic is going to happen in the logic layer. In order to carry out the logic, in order to do its work really, really well, the data layer would be needed. The data layer is a supporting layer to the logic layer. Okay, where all of the data resides. Okay, and all of this data that we are seeing right now, the name, the ID, the image of the user, what happens is that whenever a user might have registered, whenever they create their profile, whenever they added their profile, all of this data is there. And whenever a post is created, this entry is also created, so that whenever people are going ahead and commenting something or editing something, every information is recorded in the data layer. And that is also responsibility of a logic layer, that whenever a data is pushed from here to here, it needs to push it from data layer as well. So data logic layer will act as an intermediate between the data layer and the presentation layer, and it will also contain a lot of logic above all of these things. A quick yes or no, everyone, if you're able to understand this.
Yes, Ankit, can we say logic layer here is a processor?
Yes, exactly, correct. That's correct. Yeah, so your monitor and your keyboard is the presentation layer. Okay, although you cannot go ahead, the monitor does not look very presentable, but you can still give input on it, right? So your monitor and your keyboard is like a presentation layer, while your logic layer is actually your processor, and the data layer would be either RAM or maybe the hard disk, depending on the use case.
Okay, got it. And
Cool.
here
Just like
in
quick,
the
yes, Yoshi, please go ahead.
so here in the under data layer, you have written ID. So is this the event ID?
This is the user ID. Okay, so this is actually not the user ID. We are going to discuss it later, how to design
Okay,
the database schema for LinkedIn, where this is going to come, why every table should have its own unique ID.
Okay.
Cool. A quick yes in the chat if you guys are able to understand what I have
Okay.
told just now.
Okay, for example,
Yes, Hemant.
yeah, so when we click on like button, there are certain kind of emojis, right? It's like angry button, right? So suppose as a product manager, if I want to create one more, right? For example, one more. So is it going to be the presentation and logic itself, or all 3 layer will be?
Yes. All 3 layer would be affected. Okay, but ideally what should happen is that in the case, understand all the 3 layers would be affected, but ideally your developer should have designed the database in such a manner that database should be like most easiest to go ahead and add it, because it's very difficult to go ahead and change anything in the database.
Correct.
You have to change the schema.
Correct.
So that's why what should I Yeah,
Yeah.
so the main shift that would have happened on LinkedIn was when they have moved from 1 reaction to 5 reactions. There they would have changed their database. But from 5 reaction to 10 reaction, that is not a very complicated thing.
Correct. So basically, in that case, my developer, a full stack developer and a developer will be sufficient to do the job, right?
Yes,
They
yes,
don't
yes.
need the database architect to be involved in this particular activity.
Correct,
right?
correct. So there might be a contract between them. So understand if this is required. For example, there is indexing or there's some other kind of complicated issues out there. They will definitely involve a contract. They will definitely involve them but you don't have to interact with them. Okay, you'll just go ahead, give this requirement to the full stack developer, and they should be able to figure out like where the change is going to happen or not.
Correct. Thanks. Yeah.
Yes. Cool. So we'll go ahead and talk about the next part. So now we can also take the similar approach of 3 layers, which is the application layer, presentation layer, and data layer, into how the developer work is distributed. Okay, so you might have heard about the front-end developer, the back-end developer, the database administrator, or the system designers, architects, or you would have also heard about something known as a full stack developer. Okay, so we can draw the same principles of the 3-layer architecture into this particular analogy. So understand front-end is what? Front-end is the presentation layer. The backend is mostly the logic layer, the application layer. I'm going to tell you there are going to be few differences, which I'm going to tell you in a while. And then database is going to be the data layer out there. Okay, so I'll tell you like how this page is created. Okay, so this is a page on LinkedIn where I can go ahead and see all of the people that I have recently connected with on LinkedIn. Okay, we can see that there is a name of the person. There is the profile details of the person. There are also some elements of interactivity. Okay, so if I click on any of these, their name or their profile, I'm going to land on their profile through URL. The URL is going to change. Or if I go ahead and message them, something is going to pop up and I can go ahead and send them a message. A dialog button is going to pop up. Similarly, I can see other things as well. Right. So let us try to understand how this page might have created. What could be the logic? Understand this is not the exact logic that LinkedIn might have used, but this could be very helpful for you to understand as in what are the various parts. Okay, and also understand that understanding technology is not about code. Understanding technology, you are able to break down these processes into fundamental steps. That is known as going ahead and understanding technology. So if you can go, then that will make sure that you are able to understand all of the important concept, and you will be able to figure out that if there is some problem occurring in anything, you should be able to talk to the developer about that particular step. And program is also about the same thing, which is making sure that you are able to break down a process into smaller steps. Okay. So I am on LinkedIn. Okay, and I have clicked on a button. I have gone ahead and gone to this URL /my network. Okay, now what will happen is that this request from the browser, this request will go to the server. Definitely after the DNS and everything that is done, that I've told you in the last session, this will go to the server. Server is now also a computer. Okay, and computers work on logic. So what they are going to do is, it is going to understand that yes, from the domain, it will understand which server is that. Okay, now on that server, it is going to say that someone is asking for this particular information. Okay, it is going to say that someone is asking for this particular information. Okay, now the server will try to understand the request. Okay, so what is the information that is available to the server? The information that is available to the server is first the request URL. They have the URL that it is trying to access my network. So it understands what, sometimes it understands like what they need to do. Okay, they have a general idea. Okay, so that they are asking for their connections, people who have connected with them. Okay, Then they will also have, okay, although it is not present to you, but whenever someone goes ahead and makes a request, there are some header information that is there. We cannot see it, but the server and the browser can see it. Okay, there is some kind of header information. In one of the sessions, I'm going to tell you how to use the inspect element tool in order to find that header information. Okay, so the request is there. Yes, this person is looking for my network. This is understood. Now there would be some additional information added, which is who is the user. Okay, the currently logged in user, who is the user? And before that, they will even ask, is this person logged in or not? Okay, so if the person is logged out, so I have asked for my network. Okay, so there could be two cases. I am logged in, and understand all of this happening is all of this is happening in the application layer. Okay, the presentation layer has just sent the URL. That's it. If the user is logged out, then what will happen? The application layer will just go ahead. It will send them some data, and data will have a page which will show, please log in. Okay, and this information would be sent back to the browser, and browser will show that why don't you go ahead and log in order to see this information. Okay, so it will go ahead and create some data in the form of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. I'm going to tell you what it is in just few moments. Okay, so it is going to send this information, and this information could be understood by the browser, and whatever is written over there, browser is going to present to the user. And what would have been written is that, please go ahead and log in order to see this page. Okay, now let us understand if this user has logged in. Okay, if this user is logged in, then what will happen? It will go ahead and understand who is the user, because understand, if I am asking for some detail, my network, it is going to be different than Hemant's network, than Srishti's network, right? So I have to understand who is the user. How would I understand? So in the header information, the user ID would be maintained. Okay, so the user ID would be mentioned, and there would be some secret code that will also tell LinkedIn that this is the person that they are claiming to be. Otherwise, if everyone can go ahead and change the user ID, they can become and see anyone's network out there. Okay, so along with the user ID, there is going to be a secret code, or also known as authorization code, which will ensure through which you will not be able to understand that code, but LinkedIn will understand whether this person is the same that they are claiming to be or not. Okay, how that authorization code is generated, we are going to discuss in the last session, which is how password works. Okay, now they have understood that, yes, who is the user, they have identified it or not. Okay, and now in order to identify the user from the user ID, because understand that user ID is just a number. How would you know if this is the particular kind of user out there? Okay, so it will fetch the user information. From where it will fetch the user information? From the database layer. Okay, so whenever this person might have registered, they would have filled a sign up form, or whenever they added their profile, they would go ahead and added their details about the same. Okay, so maybe there would be a table in the database. There it would have mentioned that this is the ID of the user, this is the name of the user, this is when they were registered on. Okay, and whether they are active or not. Okay, whether they are blocked or they are active, 0 or 1. Okay, so now LinkedIn server will again go, they will check whether this ID exists in the database or not, whether it is a valid active user or not. Otherwise, anyone will try to fetch any kind of data. Okay, so they will first try to understand that, yes, if this is a valid user or not. For if this ID exists here and if the user is active, they are going to understand that, yes, this happens. Okay, so they will go ahead and from the database layer, they will check the user, if the user exists or not. After they have checked, what is going to happen? They are going to see that, yes, this person is looking for my network. This is their user ID and this is a valid user. Now what will happen is that there would be one table in the connections in the database of LinkedIn, which would be known as connections. In the connections table, the information might be stored in such a way that ID, This is the ID of the user, and this is the ID of connection ID. Okay, and there would be accepted or not. Okay, 0 or 1. Okay, so if my user ID is 1, and if someone from the user ID 2 has gone ahead and sent me a request and I have accepted that request, then this is what this table will look like. Okay, so this is my user ID. This is user ID of one of my connections, and I have accepted it, which is 1. Okay, now I would have some other friends as well. Okay, so let us go ahead and this is the 1000th row. Other people have entered their own information there. And now, again, this is nothing but the number of the row, right? Okay, and now my user ID was 1. There is some other person who has sent me the friend request, number 5, and I have gone ahead and not accepted their request. Similarly, there is some other person who has also sent me the request some time ago, and I have also accepted it. Okay, so in order to now get my friend list, what this person will do, what the application layer will do is, it will tell the database that bring me everyone who is connected to Ankit, where user ID is 1, and their status of accept is equal to 1. Okay, so this way they are going to fetch that, yes, this particular person who has logged in, they are connected to so many people, and this is the list of those people. Okay, and now from this ID, okay, this is the user ID of the second person. Okay, and now in order to get information such as images or the profile link or the name of this user, it will again go and check from this particular database. Okay, so a quick yes or no if you guys are able to understand. A quick yes or no, very honestly. Understand, there is a users table. Okay, in the users table we have user ID, name of the user, and profile picture of the user, and when they have registered. Okay, this is the user. So if I register on the platform, what will happen is that I'll get a user ID, I will get a name, there would be my image, and I have registered on maybe let us say 1st Feb 8/28. Similarly, if Nikhil registers, then it would be Nikhil, their user ID, and 1st Feb, whatever is out there. Okay, and maybe if 1000th user registers, it would be their user ID, maybe their name is Srishti, this is the profile pic, and maybe the time that is out there. Okay, this is how in the database layer the information about the user is being stored. Okay, just give me a minute, guys. Yes, so what will happen is that this is the users table, and then there will also be a connections table. Okay, understand, this is just a high level understanding that I'm giving you. There could be different schema as well. There could be different kind of different tables as well. Okay, so maybe this is the user ID 1. This is the user ID of the second user, and this is connection status. Okay, if connection status is 0, then it is only sent, person has not accepted it. If connection request is 1, that means that this person has gone ahead and accepted it. If connection request is maybe 2, then rejected. Okay, and there will also be some kind of time. So whenever I go ahead and accept any request, okay, so for example, Srishti has sent me a request. So what will happen? This is Srishti's ID, and maybe I have gone ahead and accepted the request. So it would be 1. Similarly with Nikhil, I have not accepted the request, then it would be 0. He has only sent the request, I have not yet accepted it. Okay, so this will happen. Okay, and all of this is actually a part of the data layer. Okay, and now the application layer will go ahead. It will understand whatever has happened over there. It will try to get all of the details of the users who are connected to this user. Okay. And after that, when it has two important things. Okay. First, it has the data. Okay. Now, second thing is it needs to convert this data into something that is easily understood by the browser or the presentation layer, which should be able to go ahead and be interpreted by the presentation layer. Okay, so that would be, it has to create a response out of this data. Otherwise, what will happen is that the browser would not be able to understand all of these things. Okay, browser does not understand the data, it does not understand anything. Okay, browser only knows HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so it has to go ahead, the logic layer has to go ahead, collect all of this data, put it in the form of a well-written format of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then send it to the server, and then send it to the client or the presentation layer in order to, or the front end or the client, in order to make sure that yes, it is able to present itself. Okay, just to give you everyone a brief again in terms of all the three layers. So there is the presentation layer. In the presentation layer, we are sending the URL. This is done by simply the browser. Your application does not have to do anything. Okay. In the application layer, second step is to first understand the request. What is the request? The request is that the person is looking for /my network. Okay, it is the request. Okay. Second is, the third is actually, the person is logged in or not. Okay, if they have not logged in, it will just go ahead and send a login page. The login page would also be in the form of HTML, and it would be sent to the presentation layer, and it will show the layer. Otherwise, if the user is logged in, then it will check the user whether it is a valid user or not. Okay, once it has checked the user from the registration table that we have, then it will go ahead and it will fetch all friends. This is one task. Then it will fetch important details of the friends or connections. Okay, it will collect all of this data. Then it will convert this data, wrap it together into something that browser can understand. And browser only understands three things. It understands HTML, it understands JavaScript, it understands CSS. Okay. This particular part, this is taken from the database layer or data layer. Okay. And then it would be sent to the browser, which would be able to paint this HTML in the form of interactive elements such as profile images, links, buttons, and everything out there. A quick yes or no if everyone is able to understand this process, how this particular page is generated. Yes,
Ankit, application layer will be taking the information whether the user is logged in or logged out from the data. So even that information will come from data. That's what you have explained.
No. Login and login information would be sent by the presentation layer. It will verify that information
from the data, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So check the user info. This check particular thing will also come from database layer. Yes. So the presentation layer will say that I think that this user is logged in. Okay, but it's like developers say that you never have to trust what user or the client says. You always have to verify it, because there would be people who are trying to hack your system.
Okay.
So you always have to do these kind of checks. And these checks are known as client-side validation, server-side validation. On the client side, you are validating everything, but a good programmer or a good coder or developer will always make sure that they are also doing the checks on the server side if the information is critical, such as a social network. Cool. So yes, now so I've gone ahead and talked to you about a particular thing, which is some people only understand some kind of language. Okay. Okay, and this happens when you go ahead and send some information which is not HTML, JavaScript, or JS to the browser. It is not able to understand. Okay, so now it gives the server an additional work that yes, if data was there, I can go ahead and talk to the data layer and get the data done. I also have to go ahead and create the presentation. I have to go ahead and create that all HTML that the person is able to understand. Okay, so the browsers only understand HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, that creates an additional burden for the server. Okay, and now what is happening is that I'll tell you what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is, and then I'm going to give you a very important concept of how server can go ahead and create all of this in some cases, and what are the other alternative technology. So these days there is something known as client-side rendering as well, as in the server does not have to send all the does not have to send all the information or the HTML page. It will just send the raw information, and the client will make sure that everything is happening at its end. Okay, but before that, let me tell you what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is. Okay, so whenever you see a HTML page, whenever you see a web page, any kind of web page, okay, there are three important components. Okay, every page that you see on the world is actually made up of three kind of technologies, or three kind of, I would say, language or scripting languages in the technology world. Okay, first is the HTML. HTML gives the bare minimum components. Okay, that yes, this is the text, this is the structure. Okay, HTML is just the bare minimum component, that is the information that you see on the website. Okay, second is CSS. The CSS makes sure that it is able to give the color. It is able to give some kind of positions. It is able to make sure that the information is very presentable. Okay, the colors, the spacing, the position that you see, the scroll, the beautiful scrolls that you see, the images that you see, all of this is the responsibility of the CSS. Okay, so if CSS is not there, yes, a website can work, but it will not look so good as it is right now. And the second part is if you want to interact with the website, if you want to click some buttons, if you want to make sure that when something happens, some information should be sent to the server, or if you want to make the website do anything apart from being just a informational website, if you want it to do anything, then you have to take help of JavaScript. Okay, so HTML is the structure, CSS is the skin, while JavaScript is the brain of HTML pages. Okay, how many of you here know JavaScript, know any of these three technologies? They have worked on it. Yes or no would help, guys. Cool. So let us go ahead and do something. Okay, so I'll tell you what JavaScript is and how it looks like. So I have shared a link in the chat. Just go ahead and open that link. I think if you open that link correctly, then you should be here with me. Okay, so this is HTML. This is what the HTML looks like. Okay, this is what the CSS looks like. This is what the JavaScript looks like. Okay, so although you will not be able to 100% understand 100% of it, but try to understand like the smaller parts. Okay, so whatever is there, whatever you can see on the website, okay, which is I am made with headline HTML, and I am a single text paragraph, this button. Okay, everything is mentioned in the HTML. Look at this. I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this. Okay, if you write your name here, that my name is X, then you will see that this will change. Okay, so what the server was doing was, server would have this kind of template, okay, where a list of people are mentioned. What server has to do is it has to make sure that it is going ahead and pushing the names of the users over there. Okay, so this is HTML, which the information that you capture is actually be in the form of an HTML. Okay, now this button is blue right now, correct? So why is this button blue? How we are making this button blue? Okay, so hide the text above is written on this button, and the color is blue, and the color of the font is white. So let us check where this is coming from. Okay, So this is the element. The element is button, and there is written hide the text above. Okay, so I will check in the CSS. The CSS will define, CSS known as cascading style sheets. It will define what should be the color, what should be the shape, or what should be the presentation of this button out there. Okay, so if I scroll down, I would be able to see that when it mentions button, which is this element, the background color is mentioned as Dodger blue, which is now I will put it as red. Now it has become red. Can you guys go ahead and experiment something with the page? Okay, just go ahead and make this button circle by putting a 100 pixel border radius. Make this button like this by putting a 100 pixel border radius. Please go ahead, everyone, do it and write done in the chat if you are done with this. The link I have already shared on the chat. Is anyone stuck anywhere? Please let me know. And accordingly, you can do so many changes out there. Okay, and also understand your developer does not have to remember all of these things. They just have to remember that, yes, these are the things that I can change. And whenever they write it down on their own environment, which is any kind of text editor or any kind of integrated development environment that they are using, it would be auto suggestible to them. Okay, so it's not that difficult to write as it is looking on a white screen. It is not that difficult to write. Okay, so this is CSS. And then we have JavaScript. JavaScript is, it will give the interactivity to this element. So I click on this, hide the text above. Okay, it has hidden the text. And now if I click on anything, nothing is happening. Okay. So I'll refresh the page again. Okay, if I click on the hide the text above, the text would be hidden. Why the text would be hidden? Because it says that whenever on this button, a click is done, go ahead and make the opacity of this P. What is the P? P is this particular paragraph. Understand, this would look like a lot of information for you, but these are the basics. If you go ahead and put your mind to it, you should be able to understand. Okay. So P is this, whatever is written in the P, I am the simple message and everything. If you go ahead and click on this button, this should disappear. So I click on this code will get executed, and then the P will go ahead and it will disappear. Let us do something else. Okay, I'll just go ahead and rather than making it deactive, like making it hiding it, I will go ahead and change the color. So what I can do, in the P, the color is tomato. Okay, so what I'll do is on changing the color, change its CSS property to color property to what? Let us take blue. Okay, so I'll click on this. Nothing is happening. Let us see what has happened. Okay, so what was happening was, in the JavaScript, you have to mention the colors in the form of a certain code. This code is nothing. Don't get scared of it. This 000 is nothing but RGB. R stands up. Initial 2 zeros stands for red. The second 2 zeros stand for G, which is green, and last 2 zeros stand for blue. Every color in this world, almost every color in this world, the screen that you see or the colors that you see can be made by the right combination of R, G, and B. I have put it R as 0. I don't want red color. I have put it green as 0, and I have put in blue as FF, which is the maximum number. Okay, it goes from 0 to F. Okay, so now this is the blue color. So if I click on this, hide the text above, rather than hiding the button, it will go ahead and do this. A quick yes or no if you guys are able to understand. Yeah, Sushi.
No, nothing, Ankit. Sorry.
Cool. So I'll tell you that now let us try to understand what is the impact of all of this. Okay, so I'll go ahead and remove the CSS. What do you guys think will happen now? If I remove all of the CSS, what do you guys think will happen now? All of the information is now just presented plainly. This is not very good to look at. That is why this is the context of CSS. Okay, so I've gone ahead, pasted all the details, pasted the CSS again, and then it is appearing really good. If I remove the CSS, all the structure is gone. All the like the good UI elements of colors and buttons are gone. Okay, this is still blue. Can anyone tell me why is this still blue? Because this CSS is not controlled from here. This is actually controlled from the color of this JavaScript. And it has already been executed. So I'll go ahead and reverse this. Okay. I will remove this. Now everything is without any structure. It is just a skeleton. Okay. Now I undo this. This time I will remove this. I will remove this JavaScript. Now what will happen? Can anyone tell me what will happen if I remove this JavaScript?
Hide button पे कोई action नहीं होगा.
Right, correct. If I click on this, nothing will happen. Why? Because there is no interactivity. Nothing will happen. Cool. So understand, every time when a browser has to understand something, browser can only understand 3 particular languages. The structure is going to be coming from HTML. The color and the design would be coming from the CSS, while the interactivity or information here and there would be done by JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript is also important for going ahead and sending the request to the server.
So Ankit, can we
Yes,
say
Hemant.
that जो हमारा Wikipedia का page होता है ना, that's completely more toward HTML. They don't have CSS and
Yes, they have less CSS. Correct. They have less CSS. So if you want to go ahead and maybe if you look at Wikipedia page. Okay, so this definitely. So if you go ahead and remove the CSS from here, what will happen is that I'm not sure how I can show you that. Okay, I think I won't be able to. No. Remove CSS. Just I can show you maybe. Remove CSS from URL. I don't think it should happen here, but let me check. Try luck. No, I don't think this will happen. But yes, if you go ahead and if I remove all the CSS from this URL, definitely this page is going to look very, very ugly.
yeah.
Okay.
So I mean whenever we search anything on Wikipedia, it's come in a very raw format, right?
So there is less CSS.
Right.
Yeah.
And in certain pages there is no CSS at all, I think.
It would be breaking. Yeah, it would have been breaking. So for example, there would be CSS, but the browser is not able to load, or there is some kind of issue out there. That is why it is very bare minimum, just like the page that I have shown you without CSS. Yes. Okay, so this is there. Okay, now there is one thing. Okay, so let us understand how we take. Yeah, Ayush, you have something to ask? Please go ahead.
So while putting ads, CSS is required now because we place the ads. So CSS is it's required in that way, right?
Yes. So it depends on if some advertisers are directly placing the images. Okay, so image contains everything. You are doing all the design in the images, so CSS is not required. You will just put an image and its link. Image is the tag that is present in HTML.
Okay.
Okay, so yes. So now I'll tell you. that how the attendance system works on Hello PM. Okay. How do we capture your attendance in Zoom? Okay, and it will also tell you something about the client side rendering and the server side rendering as well. Okay, so now what happens is that right now let us see how many people are present. Okay, so this is the event. At the peak, 30 people were present. Okay, and this is the name of the person. Okay, Sailesh is there, Hemant is there, Sriharsha is there, everyone is there. Okay, so I'll try to explain how that happens and how it's being generated. Okay, and then we will arrive at, by understanding this, and one more concept, we'll arrive at the CSR and SSR. Okay, so what is happening? The question is how we take attendance at Hello PM. Okay, so what will happen is that whenever you go ahead and attend this meeting, when you get present in this meeting, okay, so the Zoom has an API. I'm going to tell you in one of the session what API is. Okay, so whenever you Zoom sees that this person has gone ahead and they have logged in into this meeting or started attending this meeting, have joined this meeting, they are going to tell us. Hello PM has a script where they are going to send the name of the person. They are going to tell us the ID of the meeting ID as well. Okay, so in the backend, we have a continuous service that is listening to it. We have a server that is listening to this request that tell us Zoom if this someone has attended. Okay, so the Zoom will send us the event. Okay, that yes, this whenever you go ahead and click on join meeting, whenever the meeting is started and you are there, then Zoom will send us an event that yes, this particular person has attended. Okay, and now what will happen? We have a database at the backend, and in this database we have maintained the meeting ID, name of the meeting, which is also sent by Zoom. This is also sent by Zoom. Okay, and then we have the user name. Okay, and if you are logged in into Zoom, your email as well. Okay, and then there is also like one account ID, as in which user account was used in order to create this meeting. So it is Hello PM account, Ankit Shukla's account, or someone else's account. Okay, because we have several paid accounts. Okay, so now what will happen is that whenever that request comes, okay, so here meeting ID would be, for example, let's say that this meeting ID is XYZ. Okay, the name of the meeting is Tech for PMs internally. Okay, name would be maybe, let us say the name is Sailesh. Okay, and there would be, if Sailesh has logged in from his email ID on Zoom, that would also be present. And we go ahead, if you want to check the attendance, what we do is we will just check the meeting ID. If this is the meeting ID, this is the name of the ID, just tell us who are the other person who are also present in this meeting. So we will get the attendance. Okay, so this is the data that is being fetched from the backend in order to do the same. Okay, now here is an issue. Okay, you look at this. This is Sailesh Patel. This is being repeated. This is there. This is there. This is there. This is there. Okay, there are about 30 people. Okay, if I go ahead and show you the page source, let us go ahead and click on view page source. Okay, and you will see that this information is being repeated every time. Okay, so although the name of the person is changing and this is slightly changing, this is slightly changing, but everything is almost the same. Okay, this TD, TR, whatever you are seeing, these are HTML tags for table and all, for table, for rows and all. Okay, this data is being repeated. Okay, now what server has to do is server has to go ahead and capture the data, then create the HTML, which requires a lot of time, and that whole HTML has to be sent to the client in order to do everything. Okay, there is some problem out there. Can anyone tell me what is the problem out there? Like why this is not the most efficient solution? Can someone think about this? Like this data is being repeated. Why don't we go ahead and do something else? Like if you go ahead and like, can you guys think about anything that is wrong in this particular scenario?
Client side rendering.
Yes, what is client-side rendering?
I mean, that is something like server will send the data at a shot or repeatedly, and you'll have to render as long as it is sending the data.
Yes, correct. So what will happen is that right now our application server is using the database server as just a source of data. Why don't we go ahead, capture all of this data and send it to the client itself? Let the client do all the hard work. Okay, so I'll give you like an analogy. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys know how Coke is prepared. Okay, so Coke has a very secret formula. Okay, so Coke is prepared somewhere I think in US or Canada, where they have a syrup. They have dedicated factories for syrup or for concentrate, which is their very secret formula, as they say. Okay, and now if in India, or maybe in maybe a small town of India such as Bhopal, if you want to drink Coke, what will happen is that this thing will fly from US or will be shipped from US to maybe your nearby bottling company. Okay, and what this bottling company will, let us say this company is maybe in Delhi. What this bottling company will do is it will mix the syrup plus water, and then it will send to nearby people, such as people who are living in Bhopal or similar kind of areas. Similarly, there would be another bottling company in Mumbai as well. Okay, and then that will happen. Okay, not only it is saving their secret formula, but it is also going ahead and helping them understand or helping them reduce the costs. Because understand, traveling water from USA to India will carry a lot of weight and will have a lot of cost. Okay, it will go ahead and it will cost them a lot. It will be an insufficient solution in supply chain to go ahead and carry all of these bottles, which are almost like 99% water and 1% solution, maybe less than that, in order to carry them from here to here. Okay, it takes a lot of bandwidth, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of cargo abilities. Okay, similarly, and this happens with juices as well. Okay, so in the juices, whenever you will see the fruits are being picked from the farms, they would be dehydrated, they would be dried, and the powder would be created. And the powder is then sent to different kind of stations, different kind of bottling stations, in order to fill it up with water. So that, because understand, traveling water from one place to another is very cost inefficient. That is why these companies do the same. Okay, some engineer might have gone ahead, some developer might have, software developer might have gone ahead, they would have seen the same thing. So what they have done is, rather than depending on the application layer or the server, I'll not now call it an application layer, because now the logic is also happening on the front end. Okay, I will now call it a backend. Backend is the thing that is happening at the server. Okay, so now the server will go ahead only give two things. So what is Coca-Cola giving? Coca-Cola is giving, boss, take this syrup, these are the instructions. Okay, and then go ahead and follow this instruction in order, and put your own water in order to go ahead and do the stuff, right? You would have their own mixer which is going to mix this water and which is going to mix the syrup out there. Okay, similarly here the backend is going to go ahead and send the information. Okay, backend will go ahead, it will send the data that is required. Okay, what it thinks is important for you, it is going to send all of this data, and also it will send the instructions. If any kind of logic or anything is required, which is things is important for them, it will send to the front end, which is the client, and then the client will go ahead and create a complete web page. Okay, so if I have to tell you an example, in the attendance example, okay, what was happening? In every row, consider this as HTML, every row, name was written. Then row number 2, name 2 was written. Row number 3, name 3 was written. Okay, so rather than sending this information, what it will do is it will only send name 1, name 2, and name 3. And it will send the instruction that go ahead and present it in this format and repeat the format. And that is how everyone is going to save bandwidth. And also there are like some, so whenever now we arrive at a concept. This all concept is known as SSR versus CSR. What is SSR? SSR is server side rendering. Here, all the HTML and all is created by the server and sent to the client. The client only has to present the information. Okay. While in CSR is known as client side rendering. Here what happens is that you will just give the instructions and you will give the data to the client that is important, and client will do the hard. Okay, so now can anyone tell me what are the benefits of client side rendering?
I think okay.
Yes.
Suppose since nowadays a lot of social media platform are using CSR, right? So whenever even though there is no internet, the basic component that is there, they will still be there, right? So this is because of the CSR.
Yes,
What
correct.
is happening on the client side, right?
Correct. So understand, although the data would not be very updated. Okay, so what will happen is that they know that yes, you have gone ahead and fetched all of your connections. Okay, and they know that you have right now you're on page number 1, but you are going to definitely press the page number 2. Okay, so in advance they will give you the data for maybe 100 or maybe give you the data of maybe 50-60 people. And when you press the number 2, number 3, number 4 button out there, you will see that it is instantly loading. Okay, so it gives your first it reduces the response time. Okay, for all the for all the recurring requests. Okay, because now the data is at the client, it can do whatever it wants. Okay, second is it is going to reduce the bandwidth, because every time you are not going ahead and this small places in HTML are saved, although it is not a major bandwidth save, but yes, the bandwidth is also saved. Okay, and it also gives you offline first capability. By offline, I mean that yes, data would not be very much updated if there is something changed on the server in the meanwhile when the client is offline. But yes, the website will be mostly functional.
So
Okay.
Ankit, for example,
Yes.
there are certain apps, right, which work on online and offline both mode, right? So whenever I am offline, right, I'm even though I am entering some data in my app, right? So whenever we come online, this data will be sent to
Yes.
So this is
Correct.
happening because of CSR and SSR.
Yes. Correct. So what is happening is that they are containing all of your data into cache or local storage. Okay, and once they think that yes, the online connection is there, I'll go ahead and make sure that everything is updated.
Correct.
Yes. Google Sheet, yes, Google Sheet also works on the same. Okay, but understand, okay, so CSR is so good. Okay, but still SSR was happening most of the time. SSR was happening most of the times. CSR was not happening till very recently. Like it has only become popular in 5 to 7 years. Right now it is with almost all the big companies out there, but it was not very popular. It was not very popular in the initial phases. The reason was dependability on one language. Okay, which is JavaScript. Okay, understand, all of this response time, all of this collection of data, all of this generation of data can only happen if JavaScript is able to do it. Okay, because browser only understands JavaScript. If you want browser to do anything for you, you have to make sure that you are giving them instructions in the form of JavaScript. Okay, and JavaScript has only picked up, although there was JavaScript in the beginning of the internet and all, but the issue with JavaScript was it was only seen as a toy language. People were only looking at JavaScript that yes, it can add some buttons, it can add some interactivity. Serious work cannot be done by JavaScript. Okay, and then there is like a major change happened. Okay, a major change happened. I'm not sure when it happened. I think between 2005 to 2010, somewhere it happened. Okay, and it became mainstream after 2012, where JavaScript was a language which was only initially used in the front end. Okay, so people have gone ahead. They have discovered a mechanism. They have created a mechanism to use JavaScript at the backend as well. Okay, so I'll tell you about the technology stacks. Okay, so this is client. It could be your computer, or it could be your mobile, or it could be your smartwatch as well. Okay, and then there is a server. Server is like a more complicated piece of software. Very much, it has so much performance out there. Okay, so all of this logic that is happening, creation of pages on the server side and all, okay, fetching of data and everything, it was done by really complicated languages, very mature languages, such as Java, such as Ruby, such as PHP, such as Python as well. Okay, but JavaScript was the only language which was working at the browser level. Okay, and now people do not want to use JavaScript because they understood that if we become a JavaScript developer, we can only work on the front end. We can only work on small buttons and forms over there. We should not be able to break the main, we will not be able to create the main application code. Okay, but somewhere between, let me see when that happened. Node.js is
Somewhere around here.
2009. Okay, so it happened in 2009. Okay, and then in 2009, what Node.js did was it gave JavaScript the capability to become a backend language as well. Okay, so now even the servers can go ahead, they can run JavaScript. And now after this, a wave like a revolution of JavaScript occurred. Okay, and these days most of the tech stack that you are going to see, they are going to work on JavaScript. So at the back end, they are going to use a framework known as Node, and at the front end, they are going to use a framework known as JavaScript. And then you will see there is a new pool of people known as full stack developers. So there is a front end developer who talks about CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. There is a backend developer who talks about Java and Ruby and PHP and Python and other kind of languages. Okay, while there is a full stack developer, which most of the times is a JavaScript developer who knows JavaScript, who also knows Node.js, because he can go ahead and code his information, like fetch all of this information, do all of the logic in the JavaScript by using Node.js as the framework. That is why the revolution of JavaScript occurred. And if you think the popularity graph of JavaScript, you will see that after the Node was discovered, it has gone like very crazy. Okay, so once Node.js discovered, and then it became mainstream after 2 or 3 years, and then like the invention of many other frameworks such as Angular, React happened, then all of this happened. Okay, so JavaScript was a major roadblock in doing the CSR versus SSR. And when JavaScript became mainstream popular, people have gone ahead, they've understood that yes, if JavaScript can do everything, we can get the browser to run JavaScript. Why don't we go ahead and let it do everything out there? Okay, so it reduces the response time. It adds the offline capability. It also makes sure that yes, we are able to go ahead and reduce the bandwidth as well. Okay, but there was when this started, this CSR revolution out there was one issue, that if your website is dependent on search engines. So understand, search engines, if you want to make sure that your website ranks on search engines, they should be able to crawl your website. And many search engines such as Google and Bing, they were facing the issue when client-side rendering page was done. Because why? They were not acting as browsers. They were just looking to understand the page content. And since the page content was it was data separated from the presentation, they were not able to understand. Okay, these hiccups occurred between 2014 to 2018-19, but now they are all clear. Even if you create like a JavaScript page these days, most of the clients, most of the search engines are able to read that as well. Cool. Any question from anyone before I move on to talk about what React Native and React JS is? Okay, if you guys have no question, please go ahead in the chat. Cool. Yes, so now we'll go ahead and talk about another concept. Okay, so I've told you about server-side rendering and client-side rendering. I've also told you the advantages of the same. Okay, there was one disadvantages of the client-side rendering. That was there. Okay. But understand these days also, like most of what is efficient work, what is like that is going to require a lot of server resources, that is going to happen at the server only. Okay. The interactive thing, the thing that is being called by that should be done by the client, that is sent to the client side rendering. So most of the times you are going to see applications which are a combination of server side rendering plus client side rendering. Okay. A good engineer knows how to decide what to build, which component to build in which particular way. Okay. And now we'll briefly talk about major technologies today. Okay. So one of the technology that we are going to talk about is Python. Okay. So understand all of the coding that happens on the backend, which is on the server. Okay. That would be done. That like Python is one of the languages in which it would be done. Okay. Python is popular because Python is very simple to understand. Okay. I can maybe recommend you a very simple book if you are really interested in this, and or maybe you can go to this website known as Replit. Yes, I think Replit is the name of the website. Here you will find like many free tutorials of how to use Python. It's a very good video-based course that they have created. It will tell you how Python is important. Okay, but I'll tell you like the most important parts of Python, why it is so popular. Okay. Okay, Python is popular because first of all, it is mostly the first language that people understand. It is very easy. Okay. Second is, this particular language is the #1 language that is used for AI and ML, as well as small automations. The bigger complex tasks such as AI and ML, it happens on Python, as well as the small optimization, they also happen in Python. Because why? It has so many libraries. Libraries means all of the important information that it needs to do, all of the important calculation, someone has done it and they have given you in the form of a plug and play component. Okay, so AI and ML applications are mostly created in Python. That is why it is widely adopted. And also, even the small optimizations are easier to do in Python because it has a very easy syntax. Okay, even with one line of code, that is like one of the only languages where one line of code also works. Okay, the second thing that you are going to understand is PHP. Okay, so PHP is like the old darling of the internet. And still, I think about like 60% of the internet is actually written in PHP only. Okay, so PHP, like one of the earliest languages out there. Okay, it was written for the web. It was written to make sure that we are able to fetch some data and create some pages on the fly with using a very simple language. Okay, it's also a simple language. Okay, but the issue is its support is slowly reducing. Okay, it is not as popular because Python has taken over it. Okay, it is not as popular these days. Okay, but however, even if it is not popular right now, still it covers about 60% of the internet. And the reason is that the most popular CMS on the internet, which is WordPress. So WordPress is a CMS. What is a CMS? Can anyone tell me what is a CMS?
Content management system.
Yes, correct. So it is the content management system. WordPress is the CMS. It is the content management system. Okay, and what happens is that this content management system helps you create websites very, very quickly. Okay, you don't have to code. So I have shown you the HTML code and all. Okay, if a developer has to, so understand Facebook, understand Samsung.com, understand Wikipedia.com, understand so many websites out there. If the developer has to go ahead and code like that for each and every page for billions of the pages out there, that is not going to be very efficient. That is why we have something known as content management system, which makes sure that creation of these pages is very, very easy. Okay, even if you are putting the manual effort, that should be very, very easy out there. Okay, so this is the use of content management system. It makes sure that you are able to go ahead and manage your content and publish your content on the web very, very easily. Okay, and WordPress is one of the most popular system out there, and it is created in PHP. Similarly, there is also one more famous. So WordPress is for content managing. For e-commerce, PHP also has one other framework. Okay, one other tool which is known as Magento. which is like a direct open source competitor of Shopify, which is like a billion-dollar company out there, Shopify. Okay, so these are the free tools that are available with PHP, and that is why PHP still is actually going ahead and powering most of the internet. Okay, there are similar kind of tools in other languages also, but these are very popular because PHP is also very easy to get started with. Okay, Python is very good for scripting and writing small codes, but if you want to write a working functioning software out there on web, PHP is the most easiest to get started with. Okay, and also understand that I have told you that developers are not going to go ahead and put every line of code together. Okay, because it is like very inefficient to do so. Okay, so what they will do is they will use some kind of framework. So understand, I'll introduce you to frameworks. Okay, so understand that whenever we create any kind of website or whenever we create any kind of project, there are some things that are common. Okay, so for example, whether I'm creating an e-commerce website or I am creating a social network, okay, or maybe the third use case would be maybe I'm creating a learning management system. Okay, there would be some common things as in I have to create the login, I have to do user management. Okay, I have to deal with some kind of transactions. Okay, I have to connect with some kind of databases, right? So what the framework does is framework makes your life simpler by giving you these kind of things out of the box. Okay, so if you use a framework such as in PHP, we have multiple frameworks. One framework is CodeIgniter, not popular these days. You don't have to remember these names, so don't think about the writing. Second is, which is very famous these days, is Laravel. Okay, this is nothing but a collection of PHP files which are already created by someone to make sure that you do not have to redo the work. The login is already there. You just have to tweak a little bit and it is ready. You don't have to write all of the pieces of code. Similarly, user management is already done. Session management is already done. Security is already taken care by Laravel or other platforms. Okay, similarly, for other languages, for Python, we also have a framework. So Python also, you don't have to write from scratch. Okay, if you're writing a full-fledged application, you don't have to start from zero. There are multiple frameworks. One framework is Web2py. Other very important framework is Flask, which is very popular these days. And also the all-time popular framework of Python is Django. Okay, now coming to the thing that you are waiting for, which is what is React? Okay, so React is a framework which helps developers to write very efficient applications, very scalable applications easily in JavaScript. Okay, so React is a framework for JavaScript. Okay, and it is so popular because first of all, JavaScript has become very popular. Okay, and it makes JavaScript very simple to write. It makes JavaScript almost look like HTML. Okay, that is, and also it is very reusable. Plus, it also has a lot of community support. So if you're stuck somewhere that you are not able to do this with React, you can search it for on the internet and you should be able to go ahead and do this. Okay, it's not a very easy framework to pick up. Initially, you will have some kind of issues, like you will there is a learning curve, but when you get over this learning curve, you will be finding yourself that yes, it is very easy to create. Okay, and one concept which is very like also the main reason why React has become popular is actually its modularity, or also known as components. Okay, so what React does is, consider maybe in this web page, if I'm able to show you, give me a minute. Just give me a minute, guys. Okay, let me open LinkedIn as well. Cool. So this is my LinkedIn. Okay, in this LinkedIn, you can see that yes, this is a complete page where so many things are present. Okay, But if I look at it logically, understand technology is all about, can you break the whole system into smaller parts or not? I have told you to break the system into presentation, logic layer, application layer, and database layer as well. Now here you also, the developer will go ahead and they will try to break the system. Okay. So in this whole page that you are seeing right now, there are multiple smaller components. Okay. There is this particular place where my profile information is mentioned. Okay. There is this place where this post is mentioned, and there are multiple like the same. Okay, so it is repeatable. You can just go ahead and replace this video. You can replace this information, and then you have a template or component which can create multiple posts. Okay, there is this sidebar. In this sidebar also, you will see that this component is common. Okay, let us say this component is a list item. Okay, so now this is again a list item because kind of information is same. There is a title, there is a time. Now there is a title, there is a time. There is a title, there is a time. There is a title, there is a time. Okay, now similarly here as well, this is also a component. This is also a component. This is also a component. This completely is a component. This menu is also a component. Okay, so what JavaScript does, what React does is it helps you think about a web page into form of small components. So you go ahead, you create these components, and then you repeat them. Okay, so to understand it even better, look at look at this. This is the post. There is, on every post there is going to be the name, there is going to be the DP of the person, there is going to be the content, and there is going to be maybe a connect button. Okay, let us scroll down. Here also see there is a name, there are number of followers, there is this component is slightly different because it is an ad component. Okay, but it is also similar to the previous component out there. Most of the properties are same. Okay, it also has like button and everything. Similarly here, this is also same, just the content is different. Similarly here also, just the content is different. This is a different component, but similar kind of component appearing the same way. Okay, so what React does it helps you go ahead and break down your page into small components, and then your code becomes very reusable. Okay, so reusability is what React gives you. And above all of this, it also gives you the ability to go ahead and make your code very simpler. Okay, so if you see a normal JavaScript code versus if you see a React code, you are going to find that yes, the React code is a much simpler to understand because it is arranged very perfectly in the form of components. It is mostly as easy as HTML for people who know how to go ahead and understand it. Okay, and also React also does help you does one thing. Okay, so whenever you go ahead and create any web application or website, you have to consider about three things. You have to have a CSS file, you have to have a JavaScript file, you also have a HTML file. But in React, all could be in one particular file, and it is very well managed. Okay, so you only think about that component, how that is designed, rather than the whole system out there, and then you can go ahead and repeat yourself in order to go ahead and create the whole website. And the above all, the one major reason why React is so famous is because it first has the support from Facebook, and now after Facebook, a very big community has adopted React. So if you find any of the startups out there, if you find most of the companies out there, you are going to see that all of them are using React because it makes the life of a developer very, very simple. It's a very effective language. Okay, and now Facebook has thought that why we are going ahead and limiting React only to web. Let us go ahead and create something known as React Native. So now React Native is also there, which helps you utilize the power of React, the reusability, the easiness, the easy way to create component, the modularity in mobile app development as well. Okay, so with React.js, with React Native, you can create apps which can be run on iOS, which can also run on the Android device. We are going to discuss more in more detail about this, maybe in the second last session where we'll talk about mobile apps. Okay, quickly tell me everyone, yes or no, if you are able to understand all of these concepts and maybe brief about these technologies. Okay, people who are sitting silent, they tell me, are you able to understand? Yes, Akash, Anant, Dhairya, Gaurav, Harsh.
Ankit, one question.
Yes, please go ahead.
So basically, React Native is to make it helps to create the mobile application. Is this the difference?
Yeah, React Native is used to create mobile applications because mobile application need different kind of things. Okay, it needs a different kind of component architecture and different kind of technologies to take care. While React JS is for creating the website application, web applications.
Okay.
So Ankit, there are
Yes.
certain websites, right? They run on both. Like when you open in mobile, it will automatically take the shape of mobile app kind of a thing.
That is responsive. Yeah, that is responsive thing.
Okay.
Yes. So
Responsive?
what happens is that, yeah, responsive, that is, these are known as responsive web apps. So what they do is, if you go ahead and maybe let me tell you an example. So responsiveness is how your website is able to go ahead and, okay, so you see that this is how LinkedIn looks right now. So this is how I have opened LinkedIn. This is, it looks like right now. Okay. If I go ahead, if I want to see it in mobile, I'll just right click. I'll click on inspect. And then I'll click on this mobile button here. Okay. So now let us see what it looks like in mobile. You see, things have changed, right? This button has came here and thing is there. Okay. So when a website goes ahead, it goes ahead and changes itself according to the screen out there. It is known as responsive. This is taken care by the CSS. The CSS will make sure that it is redesigning components in a way that it is very easy to, it is adapting to the needs of the client.
Okay, so that means it's not about React.js or not about
Yeah. Okay. So understand, in React.js, you are actually writing CSS into JavaScript. So you have to take care of that. In a React file, let me give you an example. React.js file. It's not there, maybe. Okay, so I'll attach something in the LMS. So you'll be able to understand that whenever you are writing React.js, some of the CSS is also present on the website. So you can either write it external CSS, or you can also include CSS in your JavaScript code. Okay.
So that means that particular CSS is responsible for responsiveness, right?
Yes, correct. So there are two ways. Okay, there is not only one way, there are two ways. One, the CSS will be able to understand that, yes, if the device is of this particular size, then do this. If the device is of this particular size, then do this. This could be done by CSS. But some really advanced companies, what they do is, so let me go ahead and open this. Okay, now I have gone ahead and removed the mobile button, right? Still, you can see that how it is appearing. Right. So now this is done by the server. So whenever I go ahead and make a request, the server which takes the request, it is going to understand which device it is coming from. And if it is coming from a bigger device, it will understand that and give me a version which is a separate version for the bigger device. If it is coming from a smaller device, it will give me the version from the smaller device. Right now, understand, I have not refreshed this page. Okay, that's why the server has not got the new request, and the same page that was on mobile is appearing to me. Okay, if I go ahead and refresh this right now it will appear to be a desktop website. Understood?
So Ankit, React JS will contain CSS, HTML, and JavaScript also.
Yes, correct. It can contain.
Okay, but it will have the extra functionality like the sections, different sections will be there, right?
Yeah. So
Which we
understand,
can
React
reuse.
does. Yeah. So React does not add any extra functionality. It helps the developer to write code in a very optimized way. That is the only thing. Okay. So if developer is writing everything into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript separately, it would be a mess for them to manage all of this. Okay. It takes more time. But now with React, since the components are reusable, they'll be able to create website at a much faster rate, even complicated applications at a much faster rate. That is the use case of React. It does not add any additional functionality. Understand, React framework is also based on JavaScript. Whatever JavaScript can do, React can also do. Whatever React can do, JavaScript can do, and even more JavaScript can do, because it is the core framework out there.
So basically it reduces the scope of repetitive work.
Yes, correct. It increases the efficiency of a developer. It is nothing, framework is nothing but an efficiency tool for a developer. That's it. It does not add anything extra.
Yeah, another way to put it.
Yes. Cool. So I think we are at 9. Yes, please go ahead. Someone has a question.
Yeah,
Siddharth?
so yeah, actually, I heard from one of the developers stating that they are using atomic design. So is that related to this?
They are using atomic design. I'm not sure what atomic design is because these days there are so many concepts out there. But let me see if it is the same thing that I'm thinking of to be atomic design. So like creating design system. Okay. So understand, atomic design is nothing but it's a design system. Okay, which focuses on reusability. That yes, we have gone ahead and created the small components which are atoms, and then it could be reused again and again.
I think it's something like a storybook or
Correct. Correct. So Storybook is also a tool which will help you create these components even quickly with React. So people were not happy with JavaScript, with the efficiency of JavaScript, so they have created React. Now they're also not happy with the efficiency of React, so they are adding more tool on JavaScript, which is known as Storybook, which will help you create these components as well. And I'm not sure where this is going to go.
Okay, got it.
So it's like that you have designed a complete component in a story, right? And if you want to use that particular component, you just pick that story.
Yes. Correct. I have not used Storybook personally, but I have read about it, so I think that would be the same.
Yeah, it's famous nowadays, you know, in
Yes.
all organization.
Correct. We have used I think Storybook in 2018 at Chiro, so it was popular over there. Yes. Right now, I think it is more popular. Correct. Yes. So we have not talked about. So we have talked about Python, PHP, JavaScript, React, Node.js. Okay. So Bootstrap. Now, up sab log, like if everyone is going ahead and making themselves more efficient with JavaScript is making efficient with React and Angular, and Python is making themselves efficient with Django and Flask, and PHP is making them efficient with CodeIgniter and Laravel. Why would our own favorite CSS will stop? So now there is also a framework or a library for Bootstrap. So for CSS, which is known as Bootstrap. So understand, you don't have to go ahead and give design to each and every element. Some designs are common across the websites. Okay, so you don't have to go ahead and every time you have to design that button, you have to put that line height, you don't have to put how your paragraph should look like. Okay, so all of these things are already taken care by a framework known as Bootstrap. Okay, it was created by Twitter, and you just have to include that framework, which will make sure that by default your website will look good. You can do more optimization, more tweaks here and there based on that, but it is going to take care of essential styling out there. So positioning and everything, it will be taken care by Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is just an efficiency tool for CSS people who write CSS. Okay, and then jQuery. So understand, before jQuery, before Java, before React, there was, like, right now it is also popular. Like I think many websites uses jQuery. So jQuery is another way which will make writing JavaScript easier for the developers. It was very famous before React. Right now it is decreasing in popularity, but it was the same thing. Okay, so React is like a more advanced version of, I would say, jQuery. It was a file. It was a set of functions which will help you write even some like even very small kind of JavaScript. So in JavaScript, if you want to do something, you have to write long code. jQuery will make sure that it is giving you a very simple way to do something in JavaScript, but it was also written in JavaScript itself. So consider jQuery as a precursor to React. Just an efficiency tools. Okay. And then about MySQL, we are going to study about this in detail in the databases section out there. And Redis. So I'll tell you what Redis is. Understand, all of the time, we do not have to go ahead and store our information in the database, because as you will know about scaling that I'm going to tell you in the coming sessions, going ahead and fetching data and storing data into database is really a time consuming process and a resource consuming process. Okay. So we have to create something known as cache. We are going to discuss in detail about the cache, and Redis is one of the most popular technologies which helps you go ahead and work with cache. So Redis is a type of cache tool that we are going to use. Okay, so you can store data with MySQL as well, which is rows and columns, and you can use the most used data, most frequently accessed data into cache, and Redis is a software that is going to help you out. And then we have Android SDK. Android is an operating system. it's a software. Okay, how can you go ahead and make applications on another software? For that, you would need some kind of protocols that are given by that operating system. So that is known as SDK. So Android SDK is something which will help you go ahead and create apps on Android as the operating system. Okay, you can code into this SDK into Java, into other languages, maybe React Native, Flutter out there, but the core of remains the same, that it's an Android SDK, which helps you develop apps or any functionality over what Android operating system is able to do. So Android operating system is the layer between your app, whatever your app does, your mobile app, and the Android device out there. You can use the camera, you can use any kind of screen out there, the touch out there, if you use the Android SDK. Okay, so these are the 12 technologies. I've given you a brief. Ayush, you have a question? Please go ahead.
Like there has been constant change in the technologies and improvements in the technologies. So a company would have, like if a company is from 2010-11, they would have installed certain technology, like they would have the engineers or the stack into one technology. And then things may have improved in the coming years and new things have came in. So do companies change the entire technology or they make progressive changes? Like how does that work? Because it takes a lot of time, right?
Yes, correct. That's a very good question. Okay, and companies take all of the three paths. Okay, some companies take path number one, which is to do not do anything. Okay, they go ahead, and that is why a problem occurs of having, I'm not sure what is the correct name for this, which is having very incumbent systems. Okay, which is have become a very old technology. Now you have not at the right time, you have not made the change. Now it is becoming more and more difficult for you. Okay, and now you have to and since the developers are not becoming available with that technology outside, okay, you are not able to find the developers for the technology. Now the problem is going to happen. Okay, so I'm forgetting the name of the particular term which we give to this. Okay, but that is the scenario where, like, most of the government website that you see, okay, most of the old bank website that you see, you will see that they have not updated the technology, and now it is very difficult for them to find the right kind of developers out there. That's the first way. Second way is companies go ahead and they change parallelly. Okay, they go ahead, they'll make sure that yes, old system is being supported, and we'll start creating new system as well. Okay, and the third is the companies are going to make sure that yes, we are going to first understand what is happening. They are going to take a calculated decisions, and slowly we will make sure that all the small newer components that are made, that will be made in the new technology, while we'll slowly make sure that the older technology is getting revamped as well. Okay, but understand, there are some pros and cons of every technology. It is not that if there is new technology, you have to port it everything. Every good CTO, every good engineering manager who takes the decision, they will consider all of the factors. They will consider the longevity. For example, Angular also became popular along with React. But right now it is decreasing in popularity, not as popular as React. Okay, there was another system that was introduced by Facebook, which is known as Parse. I think along with React, maybe a couple of years ago from React, they were able to introduce it. This was also doing like some kind of optimization on data thing. Storing data was very simple. Okay, some companies have exactly jumped on that, and Facebook has stopped its like support after a couple of years. Okay, so many companies suffered because of that. Okay, so every good CTO, every good engineering manager, they should understand what is the need. Why are we going ahead and integrating this new technology? Can't the old technology support us? If it cannot, what is the reason? And what is the cost of not doing it right now? Okay, then you will understand the pros and cons, and then they will go ahead and take that decision. But yes, it is important to understand the strengths of your current technology and what the new technology can give you, and also the business decision. Sometimes you are moving so rapidly that you cannot talk about technology. So for example, there are two kinds of ways to develop apps. Like you can do a hybrid way, as in you will make one app and it will be used anywhere on Android, iOS, web out there, or you can make a native app, which is different for different platforms. If you are a new company, create a hybrid app. I'm going to tell about this in the coming sessions, because you have less money. You are looking to experiment. You are not focusing much on experience. You are focusing on whether the user is getting their job done or not. Okay, and once you go ahead, grow into a big company, make sure that you are creating the different kind of apps and spending as much money as you can spend on technology. So strategic decision that is mostly taken by the engineers.
So the example of latter is Zerodha. They have come up with many apps for them, like Kite, Console.
Yes, I'm not sure what technology they use. I know what they use on the backend, but that has been like a very, very solid company. Okay, so there is like a blog that I'll share with you where their CTO, I think Kailash Nath, has written about how they decide about optimization. They have written it very like intelligently, and they also say that most of the technology, that new technology is going to come, most of them are going to die. So you don't have to bother about them. Just wait. Since your business need is already completed with the old technology, just wait for some time. And once you have very logical reason to go ahead and move to this technology, then only move. Otherwise, you don't have to, just for the sake of new cool thing, you don't have to move to a new technology. Cool. Shivam, you have something to add?
Yeah, I would like to add here. So please include in one of the sessions going forward, please include some 10-15 minutes on single page applications as well, if it is not already thought of.
That is not thought of. I think we should be able to add that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it is needed.
Yes, correct. Cool. Yeah, I think guys, we are done with the session. Thanks a lot. And we are going to see each other on Friday. I'll make sure that I'm sharing some notes with you in the LMS itself so that you guys can go ahead and maybe read about it as well. Okay. Yes, Alice, go ahead. You have a question.
What is single page application?
Okay, single page application is when you talk about client side rendering. Okay, there one page is going. So I'll just give you a brief. I'll not explain. So the client will make sure that it is getting all the information in the first call itself. And although the website will have multiple pages, but the server has to only give the information about one particular page. React, Angular, all of this information, that all of this technology I have to talk about, they're actually an example of single page application. Okay, so client does not have to call server every time. In one information, everything is there, and pages, you will see that pages are changing, but technically they are not changing. So I'll give you like more examples in the coming sessions.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. So thank you everyone. Bye. Take care. Thank you.
Ankit.
Thank you, Ankit.
Yes, someone has a question. Srishti, you want to
Yeah.
add something?
Yeah, just to summarize that bullet points of so Python, JavaScript, those are the language, and the thing that was on the right was just the
No.
efficient.
I'll tell you again. Python is a language.
Mhm.
PHP is a language. JavaScript is a language.
Yeah.
React is a framework that is based upon JavaScript. Node.js is a framework that helps you create the server side applications into JavaScript. Okay, before that, you cannot create server-side coding into JavaScript. Okay, so Node.js helps you do the same. Bootstrap is a framework for CSS. Django is a framework for Python. Laravel is a framework for PHP. jQuery is again like an optimization or a framework for JavaScript. MySQL is to store the data in a structured way. Redis is used to store cache. And Android SDK, if you want to go ahead and build something on the top of Android OS.
Okay, cool. Would you mind defining that in that slide?
Which one?
That slide, those words, can you define that as well?
I'll add the resources.
Okay.
Resources.
Thank you so
Cool.
much.
Cool. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.